Along with the Ultima series, there was another computer RPG series that was held with critical acclaim. It was known as Might and Magic. While I don't plan on doing a whole retrospective like Spoony did with Ultima, I just wanted to give you a quick history lesson of my journey as well as the rise and fall of Might and Magic. I will be excluding 10 since it is more of a reboot than a continuation of the series. So let's start off with Might and Magic 6, The Mandate of Heaven, since it's arguably the best of the whole series, and considered by many to be the revival of the Western RPG. Unfortunately, I never played this one, but both 7 and 8 use the same engine from 6. It was praised for its open world, non-linear gameplay, and breathtaking music. 7 is where my journey begins, for blood and honor. This built off the engine from the previous game by introducing many new side quests, as well as choices that permanently affect the ending of the game. It was a good game, and I enjoyed it, but it was a bit difficult for me, but it was fun nonetheless. It was considered to be a good entry to the series, but wasn't given the same praise as 6 was. I played its sequel, Day of the Destroyer. I personally preferred this over 7 as it gave you the ability to play as some unique races including minotaurs, trolls, dark elves, vampires, and even dragons. The classes are a bit unbalanced though, and this game is much easier than 7, but it was satisfying as all hell for me. 8 was still using the engine from 6, so its age began to show. Many of the side quests from 7 were recycled in this entry. While it's not hated necessarily, it is seen to be highly outclassed by its predecessors. And now, we have one of the biggest letdowns of all time, Might and Magic 9. It is ironic, both Ultima and Might and Magic had a stinker with their 9th main installment. Both games were rushed, had bugs, poor story, featured a quote-unquote new engine, and were just not as good as previous entries to the series. So what is it specifically that fans hate this writ of fate? Well, as always, let's take a look. Since the game was hyping up its shiny new engine, let's talk about the graphics. Honestly, this is very uninspired and low res. The environments are okay I guess, but everything else is completely terrible. The animations are horrendous, and the models look atrocious. Plus, everybody looks the same. I understand if enemies are similar, but main NPCs just look like normal NPCs you see roaming the streets. This is a huge technical flaw. Ultima 9 looked better than this, and that came out in 1999. So how about the story? That at least has to be good, right? Wrong. The story is so generic and so basic that it pretty much copies directly from Might and Magic 8. You have to unite the factions, but there is so little impact you have in the story that there isn't much freedom with it. There aren't many dialogue options for your characters early on, and nothing really opens up later in the game. It feels much more linear because of this. Next up is the gameplay. The first issue I noticed right off the bat is how limited the classes are. You don't start off as a paladin, a barbarian, a cleric, or anything else that is vital to a successful party. Instead, you are either a fighter or initiate, and must build up to the class that you want to be at. It's not a bad idea, but the execution is terrible since it leads up to some tedious grinding and huge restrictions amongst the classes. Just like any Might and Magic game, your party starts off pretty weak, and it's up to you to build them to greatness. You start off fighting rats and bats, but move up to much tougher foes. The progression is still well done, but it's still annoying that you have to find a trainer and the right people to level up a certain skill. This should have been fixed with a much more streamlined system to go along with the quote-unquote new engine. Combat is relatively unchanged. The only real difference now is that you have to point to your target instead of just pressing the attack button. It doesn't really change too much, but it's just something to note. What holds this game together is the design of the dungeons. Unlike many other RPGs, both modern and old, each place you explore really feels like its own unique experience instead of just a palette swap. Not only are the enemies well varied, but the way you complete each dungeon really differs from each other. Some are more focused on brute strength, some are better for speedier characters with range, and others are just focused on plain old wit. Each dungeon is full of many secrets, so there's always a reason to come back. Plus, the music by the legendary Paul Romero and Rob King immerse you into a new plane of existence. But this is where it all goes downhill from here. Some bad design choices include being able to rest without needing food, so this makes health potions completely useless as you can just rest and heal up. The new inventory is freaking stupid. You will be able to have a ton of items with half of them being the same thing and the other half being completely useless. The game is unbalanced as hell. Ranged fighters are favored over melee ones. Also, the difficulty is extremely inconsistent, ranging from way too easy to crippling difficulty in just a matter of seconds. And please don't get me started on the bugs in this game. After 10 years, this game is still unplayable as all hell. I know the company behind this game went bankrupt shortly after the release, but even the fans are having a hard time fixing this one. Just look at this. I'm stabbing the guard and shooting spells at him, but he's just not reacting to it. And this is not just a one-time thing. It occurs throughout the whole prison. Graphical glitches, technical glitches, and just a whole slew of design choices that I haven't mentioned really ruin this game. Some changes didn't really bother me too much, like being able to learn skills from books rather than having to go to a trainer, but the other ones really leave me scratching my head. I'm sorry, I couldn't finish this one. The only redeeming factor this game has, along with the good but rushed soundtrack, is the level design. Even the sewers are fairly intriguing and led to some very interesting moments. But let's just be honest, and let's just be real, the biggest flaw, as stated previously, are the glitches. It has crashed numerous times and is way too flawed on a technical level. If you haven't known it by now, I do not recommend this game. Maybe I'll go out and review some of the older games in the future, such as Might and Magic 6, 7, or 8. But for now, I'm done for the day. My writ of fate has finally been completed. Thanks for watching, and this is Pow3rh0use, signing off.